Welcome all to a webinar where we will share with you about this awesome, amazing opportunity that's out there to look at improving outcomes for youth in regards to permanency through engagement. So this is a project called the Quality Improvement Center on Engaging Youth and Finding Permanency. It is sponsored through the Children's Bureau. It's funded by the Children's Bureau, and the Spalding Institute for Children is leading up these efforts. And it's a 5-year program, and we'll dive into all of that and share more info about this project and what we're hoping to do and how we're hoping to collaborate with tribal nations. So before I dive into all of that, I just want to introduce myself a little bit more and provide a land acknowledgement. So my name is Jessica Sunnyduck Ulrich. I am a tribal citizen of Nome Eskimo community in Alaska. I'm a descendant of Kingigan, the native village of Wales. I'm a mother of 2 awesome daughters. I live on the Dena'ina lands in Anchorage, Alaska. And I'm currently a professor at the UAA School of Social Work, University of Alaska, Anchorage. I have child welfare background and experience. I did that for 8.5 years before going back to school to get my PhD at University of Washington. So I'm so passionate and I love this work. I love coming together and finding ways to improve outcomes for children that are involved with child welfare. So just want to say that and do a quick land acknowledgement, help us get grounded, start us off in a good way, connect with the earth. If you have a window that you can look out, I encourage you to look out the window, look at what you see, express and feel gratitude for this beautiful earth that gives us the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food that we eat, the warmth that sustains us, the cycles and seasons of life that provide this opportunity that we all have here. So I express gratitude for this beautiful earth and the lands that I'm upon. And I encourage us to think about the First Nations, the First Peoples that are upon where you're on their lands, and to think about how we can come back into right relationship with them, with the earth, and with each other. To me, this is a process. This land acknowledgement is so much bigger than acknowledging the land. It's also acknowledging a people and a community and how we need connectedness, how we need relationships to survive. And to come back in right relationship means that we see things in a more holistic and collective way. So Koyana, Tekutani for being here. And I would now like to turn it over to Lexi, who will also be starting us off in a good way. And I'll have you, Lexi, introduce yourself a little further, but you now have the mic.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Tamohi, or Tamo Kunaahi, Gampo, Nalexi James, Ganaka, Na Pitponksi, Ganaka, Na Kulu Toa, Na Pulaka, Itangomo, Navia, Jackie James, Na board member, the 3 Precious Miracles. Hello, everyone. Good morning, and I say good morning. It's still morning in Arizona. I apologize if it's noon or later where you're at. My English name is Lexi James. My Hopi name is Pitponksi. The rough translation of that is the tobacco flowers in bloom. I am Corn Clan from the village of Dewa. My mother's name is Jacqueline James, and I am a board member for 3 Precious Miracles. I mentioned I was here in Arizona. I was born and raised on the Hopi Reservation. I'm an enrolled member of the Hopi tribe. And fun fact, this was our ancestral land. We were moved or relocated by the government. So this is where our people have always been and where my family has lived for many generations. So I'm really excited to talk to you all today about why youth engagement is important. My first interaction as early as I can remember with Child Protective Services or social services here on the reservation was as early as 3rd grade. And I was permanently removed from my biological mother's care when I was 12, 13 years old. And I was placed in kinship care, which is something common you'll find on reservations. And so I was raised by my grandmother, myself, and my 2 younger siblings. I'm 25 years old, and I am, again, I mentioned a board member for 3 Precious Miracles. I am a huge advocate for youth and just wanting to make sure that they have safe environments. And when I thought about why youth engagement is important, I think it's especially important to remember that when you're dealing not only with youth, but you're dealing with tribal youth, that there are many layers to that. Unfortunately, the government has not always been so kind to our people, and many times our children were taken away from their homes and from the only family, the only people that they knew. And so when you're dealing with tribal communities and children are being taken out of the home, children are being adopted off reservation, or they're being put into foster care with non-Native parents, that adds on to the trauma that we've already suffered, whether that's loss of culture due to colonization. You know, there's so many intricate layers to this, and I want to especially talk about when you're dealing with tribal youth, there are many things that tie us to our homestead, to our people. And when dealing with tribal youth, it's also important to understand that not one tribe is a carbon copy of another. There's not going to be one size fits all when dealing with tribal nations and their youth and their culture, and you know, all these layers that add on to it. Because it's not one size fits all, the best recommendation that I've seen or that I can give, being a youth who's gone through the system, who's had to interact with foster parents, who's had to interact with non-Native parents who have adopted many of our children, or parents who are trying to make the best of the hand they've been dealt, is learning to communicate effectively with your community. Many times when we come into communities and we're talking to them about foster care or adoption or removing children from the home, it's a scary concept, and it's something that not even a lot of kids can comprehend, or not a lot of youth can comprehend. And I didn't even realize this until yesterday, that I didn't realize that there was a word for being placed with grandparents or relatives. I didn't know that kinship care was a thing. I didn't know it was a title. I just knew that I was being raised by my grandmother, and that a lot of my relatives were also being raised by their relatives, or friends in school were placed with their grandparents. I had no idea. And so it wasn't until I got older that I was like, why didn't I know these things? Why wasn't I communicated these issues? Why wasn't I at the table when we were talking about what was going to happen with me? And unpacking that as, a 20-something-year-old is really a hard thing to navigate, because, I'm on my own now, and it's still hard to figure it out. But thinking about our tribal youth and those different layers, whether that's high priority is placing them with family. After family is clanship. After clanship, it's someone within the village. After village, it's someone just within the community. There's so many layers to this. And why it's important is because our youth are so very, I hate to use the word resilient because I feel like it's overused quite a bit, but they're so smart and they understand what's going on, and they feel this pull, their tribal youth feel this pull to their homes and to who they are, whether that's learning a few words with their language, whether that's recognizing a song that comes from their tribe, or even seeing beadwork or jewelry or artwork from another tribe and feeling that kind of connection, that is something that a lot of us who live on a reservation who have been able to stay connected take for granted. And so when you're dealing with tribal youth and that engagement, and why it's so important is because you're giving those children, those youth, the option to feel heard and seen. And that's not something that comes along very often when dealing with tribal youth. Many times we're overlooked, many times we're forgotten, and we make up such a small percentage of the population. And we're on isolated reservations where sometimes resources are scarce and sometimes we don't have the best mentors or the best people taking care of us. When you give them the option to feel heard and seen and to have a say in what actions are going to be taken regarding their future and their lives, that is more than any of us could ask. And so I thank you all for being here. And I really hope that you take the information that is being presented here from Alicia, from Jessica, from this whole program, and really taking into account why it is so important and why youth and tribal engagement should be at the top of your agenda today. So again, I thank you all for coming and listening. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you so much, Lexi, for starting us off in a good way and keeping it real, and for getting us to really get grounded and rooted in the purpose of this work that we're doing. And that is so that we help our youth feel seen and heard, and that they have this knowledge and connection and these relationships that are so important, and that we're part of co-creating a project together that will accomplish that for more youth. So I really appreciate your words and wisdom that you shared with us. Thank you so much. And to give a little bit more background about QIC-EY, that's the Quality Improvement Center on Engaging Youth. It is in partnership, it's in collaboration between Spalding for Children, University of Washington, University of Nebraska, North American Council on Adoptable Children, and then New England Association of Child Welfare Commissioners and Directors. So there's a lot of people and collaborators that are chipping into these efforts and doing their part and bringing expertise, and including tribal expertise amongst some of these groups as well, youth expertise. And one of the overarching aims is really to look at advancing child welfare programs, whether state and tribal and county, like at multiple levels, so that practice improves, that youth feel that they are authentically being engaged, that they're being empowered, and being seen and heard in regards to permanency decisions. So part of how what we're hoping this work is to improve system change, to make transformational changes so that this does happen. It's active, it's an action step that is being taken. So this will happen in multiple ways through policy, practice, and culture shifts. And there will be 6 to 8 pilot sites selected. And we're hoping that 1 to 2 of those will be tribal nations that are also involved. So some of the goals, there are 2 main kind of goals here, population goals. One is that children, youth in selected pilot sites who are in care, awaiting some form of permanency, whether that's through reunification, adoption, guardianship, or other permanent planned living arrangement, they'll feel that they are being engaged in the work that's happening within the child welfare system in making those decisions around permanency. And then the other aspect of this is that there's going to be curriculum developed. There will be training provided. There will be coaching provided to child welfare workforce to help them with implementing curriculum, with implementing ways to authentically engage youth and ways to make systems change. So with that, I'd like to start just by asking you to sort of self-reflect on how you feel things are going within your own child welfare work that you're doing, whether it's through a 4B, 4E program, tribal program, but how do you think it's going for you? So if that poll could get launched here, you should be seeing it now. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
So Ingrid, I think you can launch the poll now.
Yep, Ingrid did launch it, I see it. So just give it 10 more seconds. And then we'll show the results if we can. All right. So can everyone see the results out of everyone that completed the poll? Yeah, so it looks like 41% feel yes all the time or some of the time that youth are being authentically engaged. And then we have some not sures, some no, not at all, or not very much. So it's kind of a range, and that's part of what we've been seeing as we've done these polls and webinars. And we have one more poll question for you. Does your tribal nation authentically engage youth in decisions outside of permanency that impact their life? So visitation, sibling contact, contact with family, cultural involvement in those things. So if we could launch poll number 2, what are your thoughts here? So we can go ahead and end the poll and share the results again. So it looks like there's a range again, but I do see a lot more yes responses on this one. So that's great to see. And still some not sures or a mix of the no, not at all categories. So that's where I feel like this shows us that there's good work happening and there's more that could be learned and shared where that good work is going on. And there's some areas where there could be some improvements made. So that's really important for us to think about and consider as we proceed here. It's so important that youth do feel like they have a say, that they know what this terminology is, that they know what kinship care means, what adoption versus guardianship means. And it's been I know when I did frontline work and I spoke with youth about this, it's not always clear cut or easy to explain. And there are sometimes assumptions made about, adoption means I'm never going to see my family again, for example, so there's so much that we hope to develop in this curriculum and to really give the tools and terminology and to help improve some of these skills so that people don't avoid the conversation. It needs to happen and to do it in a good way. So it's very beneficial. And yet this was a survey done, broad survey in regards to hearing from young adults, not just tribal youth, but youth from all sorts of different backgrounds. And what was showing up was about 30% felt that they didn't ever discuss permanency And that's a pretty high percentage when you think about the number of youth who are seeking that relational permanency. And many of them felt like if it did come up, it was rare or happened only a few times, and that they didn't have access to an attorney or someone else within the legal system to help explain some of this. So this is some more survey results continued. Just again, indicating there's improvements that need to be made within child welfare. So part of what I'm hoping to do and why I'm involved in this work, I'm hoping to help with providing some guidance on some of the curriculum development as well. And this is based on research I've done interviewing foster care alumni, relatives, and foster parents, and the importance of connectedness relationships, that youth and children need connection with the earth, with community, with family. Not just biological relatives, but it could be how we define family, which is broader than that, that they have connection to knowing who their ancestors are, that they are part of a generational lineage, their future generations counting on them, to culture and to spirit and to themselves. So it's all about relational connections. And what I learned from the people I spoke with, the knowledge bearers who shared their stories with me, was we have to acknowledge the disconnect that's happened within child welfare. We need to do something different to ensure that there's relational continuity maintained, that we come at this work in a relational way so that children and youth know who they are, where they come from. And I feel like when we have healthy children, that's when the permanency and the safety and well-being, it all falls into place. Like that mantra I always got in the child welfare workforce was safety, permanency, well-being. That's what everything's about. But how we get there, how we achieve it, there's knowledge and wisdom within our tribal communities that can provide guidance on that. And I would now like to turn it over to Alicia to share about what she has been learning and some things that she would like to share with the whole group here.
Hello, thank you, Jessica. Hello, everybody. My name is Alicia Manuel. I reside in Casa Grande, Arizona. I'm married to my high school sweetheart, Tecumseh, and we are blessed with 3 beautiful children. I always tell everyone that I have 3 children that are the same age for literally 4 days. And this year they were all 8. And then my daughter turned 9 on February 14th. And then my other son turned 9 on February 22nd. They were all in the system and had some exposure to meth and other things. But I became their forever mom. And so I've been a huge advocate to provide resources and services to Native children across our state and linked over to other states. They are tribal members of Gila River Indian community. That's where my husband is from. I am a descendant of Apache, so I'm Hispanic and Apache. And what I want to tell you about today is this beautiful picture that you see in front of you is called an event that I have put on for a couple years. It's called Royalty with Miracles. And that's where we bring in Native royalty from throughout our state. And we bring in foster parents, adoptive parents, kinship families, relatives that are taking care of children that were placed in the system, and allow them to have a opportunity to be around their culture, but also to be around our royalty, our role models, our youth. And if you see back, right dab in the middle is actually Miss Lexi James. She has been a part of my board for a very long time, and that's when she was a part of Miss Indian Arizona as her title there. And you see Miss Indian Arizona there. But we've had a numerous amount of individuals, our royalty, come and drive miles to volunteer their time to spend with youth. And so what we would do is we would rent out a bowling alley and we would place youth and their families, and they would have one royalty. Every lane would have a royalty. And the kids would get a sash and a crown so they knew that they were special. But also this was an opportunity for our royalty, our to love on our parents, because a lot of the times we would see non-native parents. So I would tell our volunteers and our royalty, you know, love on these families, let them ask any questions that they have regarding culture, regarding, you know, anything that they need, and just give them the love because they're loving on our children. And at one of these events, I had a girl reach out to me. She was a royalty from the Apache area where my descendants are from. And she had wrote me a beautiful handwritten letter, and it said, Alicia, she said, I had told my grandma about what you're doing, and she was just so touched because she actually adopted my mom. And she was with me that day, and my mom was so touched, and she went home and tell her about it. Also, she says, my grandma wants to bless you with something. Can you come up? And I went up to her community, and that picture to the right is me in a camp dress that she gave me. And I always get so emotional. I'm sorry. It's just, it means so much to me. And as you all may know, when an elder gives you something, it's very special. And so when I came home, brought it home, I put it on, and I felt like this is my first dress from my own community, my own descendants. And I felt like the locket in my heart just connected. I felt like that missing puzzle piece in my heart, because I didn't grow up in my community. I was off my reservation. I felt like here I am, a woman in my 30s crying over a dress. And I just thought like, oh my gosh, I finally connected. Like I feel a sense of who I am and where I'm supposed to be and what I'm doing for other children and for our other Native children is making a difference. Because then it went back to grandma, it went back to her daughter, it went to her granddaughter. So it's touching generations of lives. And so we continue to do this work. I'm very honored to be able to do it. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we haven't done it for 2 years. But this past year, we didn't get to do this, but we did another event with horses at a horse therapy program. And the horses were galloping in the background where we had drummers and singers dancing out there. And so what I want to tell you as you move forward in your work is to remember that even something so small as a gathering and bringing culture around, it bridges a gap of a lifetime or even generations. So I'm excited to be a part of this group. I'm happy to do what I can. If you don't know about Three Precious Miracles, I do have a website again, and I do whatever I can to provide opportunities and bridging gaps of our Native youth. So God bless you all. Take care, and thank you for allowing me to share my story with you.
Thank you so much, Alicia. Beautiful. I feel that right here in my heart when you shared how that gift from the elder unlocked your heart, and that makes such a difference, and that's what our children deserve and what they need. And I feel like our work, the collaborations and relationships, connectedness relationships we develop can further promote that for youth that are involved. So thank you so much for sharing your story and for blessing us with that. And I just feel really good. So thank you, Alicia. So to further explain what this project is doing and kind of what action steps we're taking, there will be a literature review process. There's already one underway, looking at what's already out there, what programs are happening, what curriculums have already maybe been utilized in some places in regards to youth engagement. There are going to be papers written that summarize all of that information. And then we hope to, like I said, work with pilot sites. We want to see what can be developed, what can be helpful, what can be created so that we help teach this and we help people learn how to do this work so that we continue to help our youth. So it will involve all of this in terms of creating a model and developing training and curriculum and coaching opportunities. And we also hope that this will expand to courts. And I know some tribal nations have tribal courts set up and some don't, but we hope that court improvement will be also part of this process. So like I said, we are going to be working with states and tribal nations. And what does it mean to be a pilot site? So if any of you are interested in potentially signing up to be a pilot site, this is where we want to be clear about what would be asked of you, that you would be willing to work with us for over 4 years to identify, implement, and evaluate an authentic youth engagement model, that you'll help us identify and implement systemic changes related to youth engagement, that you'll implement a child welfare training and coaching kind of process within your tribal child welfare programs, and that you'll help us partner with courts on making changes related to youth engagement. So again, that might look different depending on whether your tribal nation has its own court or not, but hoping we can collaborate and figure that piece out. This work will be supported. It's in partnership again. And so we have, through this project, we have a curriculum and workforce council. There's advisors and people providing expertise on this. We have a youth engagement advisory council as well, who's also giving guidance to all of this work. And then you have the QIC-EY team. And so all pilot sites will have site consultants. We're going to have an evaluator that will be in connection with you if you opt in to being involved with this work. So we'll have a project management team, an implementation team, a youth team. There's going to be a lot of teams and collaborations happening. So I will actually be one of the consultants that will assist with the implementation of this work within your community if you opt in. So why be a pilot site? There is some funding that could be useful for your tribal program in terms of, we have funding that can cover some staff time, the ability to implement a model, like you're going to be part of developing this and co-designing it and also in potentially improving outcomes for the youth in your community. So you'll have access to experts and yeah, I just think it's awesome that the work that you do with us could also help others. We're hoping after we pilot all of this that it will spread, that it will be utilized and picked up and useful and continue to help multiple communities, multiple states, multiple tribes, because it's about our youth again. So there's a lot of reasons why I think it'd be helpful to be selected as a pilot site. Again, it's about your voice and your wisdom being heard and potentially applied to other places where they could pick it up and adapt it to fit their own community. You'll be part of being a national change agent in that way. And then again, I know this is about more towards the states, the Child and Family Services Review, but even if tribal children are not involved in your program, this is going to help other tribal children who maybe are are not connected necessarily with their tribal courts and those sorts of programs yet. So in Alaska, we have a highly disproportionate number of Alaska Native children in out-of-home care. It's around 65%. So we have a lot of work to do and a lot of things to implement and change. And so these are some of the hopes, if you're interested in being a pilot site, that there's some alignment in terms of, we have similar mission, vision, kind of, we have, we're on the same page about this being about youth engagement and permanency, that there's really full investment. We need to know that if you opt in, that you're going to stick with us throughout, and that it's really about youth engagement, as we've been saying all along, that you'll participate in an evaluation process, which will involve some data collection and data sharing. And then again, we'll have some meetings monthly, like it might be more often in the beginning, and then depending on what we're implementing, it might not be as much over time, but there's going to be a lot of teaming and collaborating. And that that your program has staffing is pretty stable enough that we can implement a process, that there's court collaboration, sustainability, and dissemination efforts happening. So all of this is part of what we are looking for when we have pilot site selection going on. So let's talk about the timeframes for the site selections. We're currently in phase 1. This is part of that. We're recruiting. We're trying to get the word out there, get people interested in this. And we're hoping that we'll have people say, hey, I want to be involved. We hope to select them by the summer. Latest is hopefully by July. We'll have notice and give notice of which tribal communities are selected to be a pilot site. We're hoping to have multiple people, multiple sites interested in this. And then we'll start onboarding tribal nations, going more in depth, and getting everyone ready for what's to come next with the process of developing this curriculum and implementing curriculum and training and engaging your staff and training and coaching and all of that down the road. And it's not all going to happen all at once. I hope you're not hearing this and getting overwhelmed. We're going to work together and come up with those timeframes together and do a lot of planning in the beginning. So if you're interested, what should you do next? You, again, think about, determine the fit for this project. Do you feel that the QICEY aligns with your tribal nation's goals? Is this a priority for you? I know there's multiple priorities that everyone's always juggling, so we get it. Does it align with your tribal nation's culture, policy, practice related to youth engagement and permanency planning? Does your tribal nation want and need to improve the number of youth to obtain legal, relational, and cultural permanence? Does your tribal nation have the interest and time to refine existing infrastructure and practice? So that's part of what we're putting out there for you to think about and consider when you're looking at whether to reach out to us and let us know if you want to be involved. If you do want to be involved, which I hope you do, please contact me. This is my email address on here, or the general QICEY email address is an option. That's my phone number on there. It's my cell number. Feel free to call or text me, and then we can talk and we can list your tribal program as a potential pilot site. So we're about to close out the information portion. And I wonder if there might be some questions people have. Before we end in a good way, we're going to end with a song that Alicia shared with us, a recording of a song. But now's a good time if any of you have questions. This is where we can engage in some dialogue. And I do see in the chat, we will provide the PowerPoint to you. If you registered for this, we should have your email, I hope, and that's how you can get the PowerPoint sent to you. But any questions? Oh, I see a question in the chat about, is this for any tribes in California? It's for any tribes, any federally recognized tribe in the US. Anyone that's interested in being involved in this, we will take that into consideration and go through kind of a collaborative process to going back to, does it seem like this is a good fit? Is this the right time? Is this one of your priorities? Is this something that can be sustained within your community? So we have some things to discuss and think through for that site selection process.
Hi, this is Rita Hart. I wanted to ask a quick question. Is this
Yeah.
also available for a tribal consortium? I'm from Oklahoma, and we're working on a youth project for Native youth, and we have a small group, and they're small tribes, so we're thinking of maybe like a consortium to work on a similar type project what you have proposed. So I was wondering if that was a possibility.
I don't want to answer for everyone, but let's get back to you on that. I want to say, yeah.
I think it's a possibility, Jessica.
Okay.
I think that would be
Okay.
a possibility.
So this is Melinda. She's also a leader from Spalding on this.
Oh, okay. Okay,
So,
great. That's good to hear.
yeah, I want to be like, yeah. But I was like, maybe we should talk about that and just learn more about what your project, like this consortium is. But yeah, I think let's talk if you're interested. Yeah. Any other questions? Is this invitation limited to those on this meeting? No, it's not. So we know not everyone can make it to this webinar. You don't have to attend this in order to be a potential pilot site. We would hope that people would watch the recording and kind of know what they're getting into. But no, if people aren't in attendance, that doesn't mean they can't be a pilot site.
And Jessica, I just put up our website for the QICEY, which is going to be brand new, hot off the presses. So it'll be available later this week. And this recording will be up there as well as this particular PowerPoint presentation. So I put the PowerPoint PDF in the chat. So if you can access it there, we can email it to you as well. As a PDF, it's too large to send as a PowerPoint, but you can certainly direct other people who are not part of this call today to the website, and they'll be able to actually hear the recording of the presentation.
Okay. Thank you for that. So we'll make sure to share that link, get the word out some more.
And there was a question about the National Youth Engagement Advisory Council. And yes, they're both on the council, and Phoenix, who is also joining us for this webinar, is leading that council through the consortium. So we were happy to have them be part of that. And we've had other people from the council present at some of our other webinars. So that'll be something we continue to do as we work with sites and continue this project.
And I love that. That's part of what I've been putting out there everywhere I go, that we have to listen to people with lived experience in order to make true transformational change within our system. So I love that that this project has that youth leadership and guidance on this. So thank you so much, Phoenix, for being with us.
Thank you. I meant to let everyone know. I didn't mean to put the question mark there. It was supposed to be a period. But yes, it's my pleasure and honor to be part of the Youth Engagement Advisory Council.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Any other questions? Go back to this slide. You have my contact info. If you think of something later, you can contact me, or if you send it to the general inbox, one of us will make sure to get back to you. Okay. Well, I would love to share this song, and then when the song's over, I'll see one more time if there are any last questions. Otherwise, we'll be completed for our webinar today. Thank you all so much for attending, and let's watch this short video and listen to this beautiful song. And Alicia, do you want to introduce who's singing and give a little more background info on this?
Yeah, so the song was recorded especially for this this webinar, and it's a good friend of mine, my brother, friend, cousin, relative. It was a honor prayer song. It was filmed in Peridot, San Carlos, Arizona, and it's the Blue Sage Singers. So I hope you all enjoy, because it was for us.
Thank you. Love it. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, so what a gift. Thank you, Alicia, for providing us with this recording, this beautiful song. What an honor. And this is what it's about. It's about our children. It's about us coming together. It's about healing. It's about love. So thank you all so much for being with us today. I'll stay on and we'll answer some more questions if anyone has any. Otherwise, I hope you have a good rest of your day, and hopefully we'll see you again. Thank you for the work you do. Yeah, our children are the future. Yes, thank you. Ah, beautiful song. All right. For anyone that's still in here, did you have a question for us, for our team? No?
Hi, Jessica. This is AJ Goins from Oregon. We chatted a couple of months ago about Indigenous framework. I'm just curious about, and I saw that there was at least one Oregon tribal member on this call. So yay. But I'm curious, in the work that's about to get underway, is there any notion of specific practices that are going to be used in conjunction with the work with tribal youth? And I asked that question because here in Oregon, we are just getting underway with all of our tribes in providing culturally specific and sensitive motivational interviewing training to a pretty large population of tribal behavioral health and child welfare social services staff. I'm really embedding that practice of giving voice to people to determine their own path. So I was just curious if there was any specific thought to that, and whether or not there might be some other Oregon tribes that would be interested that aren't on this call today that are really interested in practice improvement.
Do you want me to take that one, Jessica?
Yeah.
So there isn't a particular program that we're looking at. When we are going to be working with any site chosen to look at a program model, but when we use the word model, it's very loose, and we're looking at more at components than we are like an actual model that exists. I think in light of where we are in our child welfare systems across all nations, we need to really try to build on what's going on as much as possible versus trying to insert new stuff. So we have 5 components that we're going to look at that are related to a model. You know, for instance, we do, as Jessica mentioned, we want to ensure that there's a court piece to this. You know, that they don't have to, we can't ask any system to guarantee a court to be involved, but we would like them to be able to partner and have some conversations about how they can also be part of this. We want them to be able to ensure that they have a practice in place, a component that is really about youth driven. That's going to be one of our components. I have all 5 of them and I just don't have them here with me. You know, I'm trying to think of the other ones. The court, the that we are looking for some specialists that would be working with them on youth engagement, and that's going to look different on every site, right? Tribal nations are not always smaller than states, but they certainly can be. And so we would be looking at what that could look like and how that would operate. So it's just a lot less. We've done other QICs at Spalding where we expected a very evaluable model to be implemented, and that's really not what we're going for in this initiative. And we actually are looking at Oregon as one of our sites on the state side. So I can say it's always interesting when we can get a site where we have a state who's interested, and we also have a tribal nation or several from, that are with that state, because it does really help a lot with collaboration. Doesn't have to be that way, but I know Angelique has long been wanting to do an evaluation related to that.
Well, if you need any help from me, and that may be completely moot question, but we have what is called here in Oregon through our child welfare system, an QICY advisory, and where all of our federally recognized tribes, 4E and non-4E, are participants. And we also have a division within our Department of Human Services for tribal affairs. And I can, we talk with that leadership all the time. I'm part-time, so I have a just specific focus, but it really is, my focus is on improving child welfare practice through the Title 4E Family First changes in child welfare law. So if you need connections at all, just let me know. If you already have that, then ignore me.
On both the state and the tribal nation side? Like both you would be good with connections? Okay, perfect.
Yes. Yes, I meet with our 4E, we have 5 Title 4E agreement tribes. I meet with them monthly. The 4, really, they're smaller tribes that are non-4E. It makes no sense for them to do all that work for little benefit. Also get some federal dollars, and I meet with them at least quarterly. And I'm in, I can't even tell you, frequent contact with our tribal affairs staff. So yeah, if I can help just make connections, then I can get out of the way. I'm happy to do that.
That's great, mostly because someone else is coming in. I think that, the more people can hear this, because this webinar is very, we didn't go into a lot of the information. There's a lot more to share, but we kind of use this as like the introduction to pique people's interest. If you think that there'd be an interest to have, Jessica and some others attend, boy, there's a lot of people coming in right now. I'm wondering if this is for a different meeting. Then that's certainly something that we can do. And let me ask, Helen, you just joined us. Are you coming in for, which meeting are you coming in for?
They dropped out. Maybe they clicked on the wrong meeting.
Okay. But I think that would be great, if you think there'd be an interest to have us come there and provide a little bit more in a smaller venue, that's certainly something that we could do.
Yeah. I'll reach out to our tribal affairs director. I meet with him regularly, see if there's any interest. And then should I just connect with you,
Jessica?
Okay. And see where we go from here. So anyway, I'll get off. Sounds like there's another meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.